Now let's come to the first panel discussion. Early this year, a number of Web 3.0 leaders issued a white paper titled How Digital Assets Infrastructure Carries a City to Become a Web 3.0 Hub. There are lots of great insights in the paper and will be shared in this section. So in recent years, there has been a growing interest in Web 3.0 that is more decentralized, secure, and user-centric. A key component of Web 3.0 is digital assets infrastructure, so which is conducive to building a Web 3.0 hub by providing the necessary infrastructure to support the development of Web 3.0 applications and services. By creating supportive environment for the development of Web 3.0 technologies, cities can attract a new wave of startups and businesses that are focused on building decentralized application and service. Digital assets infrastructure can also help to attract investment and talents to a city to promote financial inclusion and economic growth. You're going to hear lots of fresh perspective from some of the leading Web3 companies that's contribution to this white paper. So now, let's welcome the panel moderator, Mr. Philip Chow, Southern Region Lead Partner, China VCPE Program, Detroit, China. Let's welcome Philip. Joining Philip on stage include Ms. Lily Kang, COO of Cobo. Let's welcome Ms. Joy Lam, partner of Baker McKenzie, Mr. Danny Wan, research head of Pando Finance, Mr. Junfei Zheng, research director of HashKey Capital, Dr. Siyan Shi, senior researcher of Tencent Research Institute, and also let's welcome Ms. Laura Wan, chief research officer and brand lead, OKG Research Institute. So welcome all. So I pass the floor to Philip. Thank you. Philip, please.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The rise of Web3 has the potential to transform a city into a hub of innovation and economic growth. As the relevant technology emerging and evolve, it is increasingly clear that the digital asset and decentralized application will play a significant role in shaping the real economy and the future of Hong Kong. Today, this is very glad to have our amazing panel here. And let's get into the content directly. This week, Hong Kong has attracted over 30,000 people and many big speakers for various events. To further develop the Web3 economy, what are the key elements of the digital asset infrastructure needed for a city to become a successful Web3 hub? Any of our speakers have interest to pick this question?
Okay. Actually, in my opinion, I think generally these elements can be categorized into two parts. Firstly, the softer part. Actually, it's the most difficult part to progress further. And for example, we need to attract more talents. And we need to redesign the knowledge and the skills required by the Web3 technology into the current education system in the long run. And actually, the hard part is relatively easier. For example, obviously, we need high-speed internet connection. Hong Kong is actually doing a great job here. And also, we need to have 100%, I think, in the long run, at least, for Web3 applications and technology to function well. We need 100% in this part. For example, we need a comprehensive digital identity framework. And for the payment, we need to 100% digitalize. Currently, from my personal experience, I think Hong Kong is quite lagging behind here. For example, if we take a taxi, sometimes we need to pay cash, right? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, I understand OKG should have a lot of solution for this part, right? Thanks, Lola. Do you have any sharing?
Okay, thank you for having me. I think the first is the blockchain infrastructures blockchain-based infrastructures, and then support for blockchain startups like Cyberport or another fund opportunities, and then regulatory framework or RegTech, and then collaborative ecosystem. I think yes, 4 sides. Thank you.
Okay. So I understand today we have many true Web3 industry participants here. What role can industry participants play in supporting such development of Web3 in Hong Kong?
Maybe I can take this question. I'm Siyan from Tencent Research Institute. Tencent is a very important player in the Web2 development. So in the development of Web3, first of all, technology is still a very important part. And in this case, if you take Web3 applications, there are some fundamental differences from normal Web2 one. For example, we have to call on-chain data from time to time. So we would like to build infrastructure for the Web3 developers to provide toolkits for them to lower the barrier for them to entry the Web3 industry. And secondly, there are certain values that Web3 communities values very much. For example, digital ownership or community. So there are many new trends as this, DID, which means decentralized ID, or DAO, decentralized autonomous organizations, and various forms of innovation emerged in Web3 areas. We would also love to provide toolkits for the innovators to innovate in this kind of area, to provide go-to-market toolkit for them. We are providing this part. And certainly, for a company that has built Web2 ecosystem for 20 years, we have many experiences in building ecosystem by investing and incubating various companies. So we would love to work with especially developers and builders together in this Web3 part. We also coined a word named Web 2.5, which means we are in the middle of Web 2 and Web 3, and we want to build in ourselves as the midware of Web 3 and Web 2 development to serve our part as the partner of all the builders. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Xu. Do you have any plan to do something about 2.5 or 3 in Hong Kong particularly?
Yeah, I think maybe we can start from various workshops and educations to educate the local market, and also Cyberport. Maybe we want to work with them more closely to figure out what are the new opportunities in this part. We are very excited to explore together.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Xu. Yeah. Jupiter, I understand HashKey is very popular this week. Do you have any sharing?
Yeah, thank you. This is Jupiter from HashKey. So maybe one thing I can add to how to Web3 can improve the local urban settings. There's a new concept called DePIN, decentralized physical infrastructure network. So it's basically, as we said, there's a combination between the traditional industry with Web3. So I think in a city there are a lot of redundant resources like some hardwares, and these hardwares have been used for a long time because they don't have ability to contribute. For example, chargers or some Wi-Fi or some internet providers. And we're using some Web3 technologies, we're adding some decentralized network onto these hardwares or devices. So every network can connect together, become a Web3 network. And they will get a token as a reward to incentivize them to providing some hardware service. For example, if you have a free charger, but not everybody in the city knows that. But if you join this network, you will know where's the free chargers, and you can use a charger. So they will be very environmental friendly for the local network, because this is abundant resources and devices, so it won't cost additional resources. So it'll be saving a lot of power, saving a lot of resources. So this is something that decentralized physical infra network can providing for the urban settings. Does that make sense? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jupiter. Yeah. Hong Kong government officials have reiterated the city's commitment to growing the Web3 industry under appropriate regulation. Today we have Joy here. Joy, could you share with us how can the local regulations and policies be changed and shaped to support the Web3 development in Hong Kong?
Look, I think, to be fair, it's pretty tough if you put yourself in the regulator's shoes, right? I mean, it's very challenging for them to keep up, particularly with this industry, right, which is evolving and changing so rapidly. And I think that there's definitely a couple of different elements to it, but I think that one of the key things really is ensuring that there is open dialogue between the regulators, but also between the people in government who are setting policy. I think it's really important that there is this kind of two-way dialogue between industry and the government and the regulators. And I think one of the challenges is, obviously at the moment there's a lot of positive sentiment in Hong Kong. There's a lot of interest from participants here as well as overseas about expanding businesses or setting up businesses in Hong Kong that are related to Web3 and digital assets, because everyone can see the opportunity. But I don't necessarily think that at the moment there is a seamless connection between the aspirations and the practical realities of how do you actually do that. So I think there certainly are some pain points at the moment that companies and businesses are experiencing, and banking, of course, is sort of the very easy and topical example to talk about. But there are these practical challenges that companies have. So I think in terms of shaping policy and regulation, there are lots of different things that regulators obviously and the government have to grapple with, but I think one of the key things really is ensuring that there is this very open and free communication, two-way dialogue between the industry and the policy setters and the lawmakers, so that industry is helping to educate the government and the regulators so that they can see what is coming, but also so they can understand what are the pain points. Because all the goodwill in the world is not going to be enough if, from a practical perspective, people aren't able to actually set up and operate their businesses here. So I think that's definitely, one part of it. And I think the other thing is, the great thing about Hong Kong is that although we started from a very, very conservative position, we are now incrementally relaxing and easing some of those restrictions. So we're starting to slowly open up and permit more activity to be conducted. And I think, this incremental approach is certainly better for industry, because although some may say, well, it's still a little bit too restrictive, I think that the consistency of approach and direction is really important. And I think it's been very, very challenging in other jurisdictions where we have seen regulators doing an about-face in what their policy position is and what kind of businesses they do and don't want to attract, or in other jurisdictions where we've seen regulation by enforcement. So I think the industry understands that the government and lawmakers are not really going to be able to keep pace with what is happening in the industry, but having a consistent approach and some clear parameters around what the key priorities are in terms of investor protection, market integrity, and these sorts of things. I think that is really valuable in terms of attracting business and giving people who are actually in the industry comfort that in 12 months' time or in 3 years' time, the government's not going to turn around and say, oh, actually, we changed our mind. Sorry, we've decided we're not into digital assets, or we don't want this kind of activity in Hong Kong, or yes, we want you to come, but actually we haven't built those channels so that you can actually operate a business here. So I think, some of those guiding principles, I would say, taking a principles-based approach and being very measured and trying to be consistent, I think goes a long way to supporting the further development of those sorts of activities and industry in Hong Kong.
Thank you, Joy. I would like to ask a question to Lily. Based on the current regulatory approach and the latest framework, do you think that Hong Kong can attract Cobo to relocate to Hong Kong?
We are already in Hong Kong since 2019, but we are well, given all the efforts we seeing across the government agencies and officials in Hong Kong, we are considering expanding much more in Hong Kong.
Okay, thank you, Lily. Yeah. Hi, Daniel, do you have any sharing on this part?
Okay, actually, just now Joy is an expert, right? She shared a lot about from the regulatory perspective. As industry participants, I can only share my feelings. In general, to shape the regulatory landscape, I think collaborative efforts are critical among the government agencies, industry participants, as well as other stakeholders. The core part is that we really need a more blockchain-friendly regulatory framework. For example, we still have a lot of pain points when we're converting crypto assets into fiat, right? This issue has to be resolved. Also, for the cybersecurity is also a very important issue in the Web3 space. So the government can actually issue guidelines on how to do more comprehensive cybersecurity audits, these kind of things. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, from a research report of Bain's Capital, investor has put approximately $94 billion into Web3 companies in recent years, and this is highly relevant for VC. I would like to ask Jupiter, what kind of Web3 companies VC are focusing on, and what does digital asset infrastructure impact Web3 VC?
Well, I think for Web3 VCs, we kind of cover all the aspects of the crypto or VA industry. But during different market sentiment, we are focused more on different layers. So because for Web3 and the VA industry, infrastructure building is always the top priority. For example, the Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the other layer ones are the infrastructure for the whole blockchain and Web3 ecosystem. And the competition still going on, even after Bitcoin has been born more than 12 years. So I think some original settings or designings will face some challenges. And the new technology that comes up, especially come along with cryptography designings. Also, we have so many so-called layer 2s, layer 3s. All these infrastructure are coming together to become the future cornerstone for the Web3, because all the applications layers we are running on this infrastructure. So that's why people are talking about the scalability on the infrastructure, because if you only have 10 to 15 TPS, roughly you even can't do anything. Yeah, you can. For example, just as a general payment is bad experience. Or if you want to play some games on blockchain, it will be very bad experience. So all these things are all the important investment in history, and I think in the near and in the future we'll still be focused on the infra for the Web3. So this also absorbing a large amount of capital. The majority of capital will be deployed into the infra sectors. So after the infra has been nearly matured, we will see a lot of new application layers like GameFi, DeFi, something. They are all running on these infras. So they will be immigrating from different layer 1s to layer 2s, to layer 2s to other, across chain to others, and to find the best way to building up their applications and the best way to find the consensus and the settlement issues, exactly like that. So I think in Hong Kong environment, I think we can try to absorbing more developers, building more infrastructures, and importantly, Hong Kong is a good city, especially for the business materialization. So you will finding your application is more business oriented, not just a pure technology play. So it gives a lot of confidence for the developers and the startup teams to get into this or pivot into the technology development activities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jupiter, because in the second half of last year, due to the collapse of certain big name Web3 companies, the VC investment in Web3 seems to be slowed down. What do you think about the current year? Will more capital pour into this sector?
I think for last year, the capital activity has been slowed down, not only in Web3, but also in traditional market. Last year, we see all the asset class, not performing well, right? So definitely it will affect the VC investment for the Web3. But this year, if you look at the first quarter's performance, you will see that Web3 may outperform other asset class. So we are drawing attention from VC again into this field. We can also see from this week in Hong Kong, so many investors, and trying to find opportunities to deploy their capital, deploy resources. So I think maybe this year will be a good start, given the macro environment change, given the micro environment change, because even though last year when all these incidents happens, developer activity is still not stopped, still going on. So after several months, half year, 1 year, they were going to deliver something in near future, maybe next half of this year or early next year. So I think something, building is one thing, investment is another thing. So investment is to select the best team, best projects to invest. So a lot of builders still working on this. I think this is a happy thing that we see in the Web3 spaces. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jupiter. Yeah. As mentioned, the previous instability of virtual asset market and collapse of certain exchange cast doubt on the Web3 development. And right now, it seems Hong Kong, the Web3, the topic is very hot. What are some of the challenges Hong Kong faces as it seeks to become a Web3 hub, and how can it overcome these challenges? I would like to ask Lily, do you have any suggestion?
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Lily from Cobo, and we are a digital asset custody and technology service provider, one of the largest in the region. I definitely see more opportunities than challenges. There are challenges, but there are much more opportunities. I figure it's now for Hong Kong, Hong Kong is in a very good position and the best timing to build Web3 economy and ecosystem. Blockchain industry is closely tied to financial markets since its inception, given it's considered a next generation internet with value exchange. And financial market, Hong Kong has a very deep financial market as well as the most advanced traditional financial regulatory framework, which can help to give liquidity and legitimacy to Web3 business. Of course, I see challenges. I think mainly I see two challenges. One is, I think in Hong Kong, I witnessed and observed the efforts from all levels of government agencies and officials. Although it's a top-down efforts, it helps to facilitate collaborations between government agencies, big institutions, traditional financial players, big players in crypto. But we also need to look at the grassroots innovators, developers. So I already see some big efforts from government, for example, the grants, the Web3 hub, the funds. But we also need to focus on the developers community because why people are attracted to Hong Kong is because you can find people think alike and do similar things, and you are attracted by ideas and the atmosphere of the community. And I also see one of the challenges is because the principle to regulate digital assets in Hong Kong right now is same business, same risks, same rules, which means we heavily rely on traditional financial regulatory framework to regulate digital assets. But a blockchain industry, blockchain movement is indeed a technology movement, a social movement. So we see very critical part of it, technology related. For example, the custody industry I'm in, it's much more complex than traditional custody. It involves blockchain technology, cryptography technology, cybersecurity. Unlike traditional finance custody, it's just a safe box. So, but in Web3 context, you need custody to be the gateway. You need to interact with on-chain protocols and all the applications on-chain. Like on the user side, you see a much more complex crowd of users. From it has evolved from just native programmers, cyberpunks, to a traditional financial institution. We see a growing number of big institutions participating in this sector. And at the technology side, you see Bitcoin, smart contract based on Ethereum and other alternative smart contract based blockchains. We see more and more layer ones, application specific blockchains, as well as a modular blockchain with layered rollups. And this multi-chain, multi-layer world will definitely lead to fragmentation in users' assets and the applications. And the application itself, we've already evolved from just exchange payment services to DAOs, NFT, DeFi. Each of them become already evolved to be a multi-billion-dollar business. So we already have, I believe there are more than 4,000 apps on our blockchain right now. And with this number of the apps, actually the concept of Web3 is already going mainstream. So this evolution of users, application, technologies require all the players in the industry to be more technology focused. So the regulators will really need to keep up and leverage technology solution to monitor crypto activity. So for example, there's no way for traditional audits to monitor the proof of reserve of exchanges, but with MPC technology, you can have access to the proof of reserve in real time. And also we have the exchange settlement network instead of exchange settlement. So the traders don't need to transfer their assets to exchange to trade anymore. They can just use mirror trading and use their own custody account to interact with trading platforms. So these are all the technology that regulators can take leverage of to better monitor the activities. So although we are facing some challenges in Hong Kong, I still believe in the inevitable future of Hong Kong to become a Web3 hub.
Okay, thank you, Lily. I would like to ask another Web3 industry player, OK. I read the news that OK plan to expand the investment in Hong Kong. Do you think that is there any challenges and how Hong Kong overcome it?
We mentioned a lot of challenges, and now I will share solutions for all its on-chain data. Yes, as we know, OKG Technology Holding is a Hong Kong listing company, and we serve on-chain data service for all the users. As a user the Web3 or a Web3 builder, we can use the on-chain data to scan all the transactions on-chain network. And now we provide 23 all the data about the blockchain network. Yes, it's a huge amount of data. And now, including the on-chain data includes about the information about transactions and the date of the trade or the amount of the trade and a lot of or fees of the transaction. Yes, it's a lot of. It's a lot of information, and we can use it to also for the NFT market. We can find it's true or false one, use the on-chain data. Also, we provide a lot of service about on-chain data for in mainland China, or like a government or regulator about like place to serve some illegal things with it. Yes, so I think when the on-chain data will help the Hong Kong, all the Web3 worlds to achieve the RegTech or subtech goals. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Because of timing, that brings us to the end of this fascinating panel discussion. Thank you for our guest panelists. And as mentioned by MC, actually Deloitte are partnering with Cyberport and the thought leaders from the industry. We are preparing a white paper called How Digital Asset Infrastructure Carries a City to Become a Web3 Hub. And if you have interest to understand more, please stay tuned. We will release this white paper shortly. Lastly, thank you again for our guest speaker for their great insights today. Thank you.